Hello, and thank you for subscribing to Introverse Tech. In this channel, we review different types of technologies, new ideas, concepts in the areas of artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, cloud. Today, we're looking at enterprise virtualization with VMware. I've divided this presentation in multiple parts, so it's easy to review, understand, and then move on to the next part. Overall, the idea or objectives of this course is to provide VMware virtualization concepts. What are the various parts of this ecosystem, including ESXi, virtual machines, virtual center, how they're installed, how are they configured, managing ESXi and its networking and storage. Again, extremely important and key concepts as regards to virtualization. Administration and monitoring of virtual machines and appliances, allowing or managing user access via command line or web-based tools, managing and monitoring the resource usage with virtual center server as well as command line. This is again a very important concept because, as we know, in a virtual environment the physical resources are shared among many servers. So it's very important to be able to have this capability. Designing business continuity and disaster recovery solutions, using command line interface to manage virtual infrastructure in the event that web-based access is not available or is very slow, and designing for availability and high performance. So this is the overall objective, but like I mentioned earlier, we're going to divide this into smaller parts for easier understanding and then being able to build on top of those concepts. So when we talk about introduction to vSphere virtualization, the objectives we hope to achieve is a good understanding of virtual infrastructure. What do we really mean by virtual infrastructure? One should be able to compare physical and virtual infrastructures, understand virtual machines, how are they configured, what are their structure, what is the design, vSphere architecture and configuration, vSphere and its interaction with the resources, the actual hardware resources, which include CPU, memory, network, and storage. Also introduce vCloud Director, which allows, it's a product from VMware that allows us to set up a private cloud in our environment. And vSphere installation and access using both web-based and command line tools. So let's talk about virtualization and what are the concepts. So virtualization has been in the IT area for a number of years, but in the last 20 years it's become a proven and very reliable technology, and especially with a lot of work by VMware, and even today VMware is the leading virtualization vendor today. Essentially, virtualization allows us to run multiple operating systems on a single server, and this is the reason it's transforming the IT landscape, and it's also the underlying concepts behind the public cloud, whether it's Amazon Web Services or Azure or Google Cloud. The VMware vSphere manages these infrastructures, sees it as a unified operating environment, and also provides tools to manage that virtual infrastructure and the data centers that are created. ESXi is the virtualization platform which allows you to create and run those virtual machines and appliances. And vCenter Server is the service or server that is used to manage when you have a large environment, which includes multiple hosts, multiple storage devices, multiple networks, and all the host resources are pulled together and seen as a single unified infrastructure. vSphere virtualizes and aggregates those underlying physical hardware resources. Like we mentioned earlier, currently without virtualization you have a hardware and you can run one operating system and maybe one or multiple applications. What virtualization allows us to do is to take that same hardware, add a little more memory and CPU, make it more powerful, and run multiple operating systems like Linux or Windows at the same time on that same hardware. So ESXi or vSphere, that allows us, that gives us that virtualization layer that goes between the hardware and the applications that are running, and allows us to virtualize our applications and operating systems. The virtualization actually acts to abstract that connectivity between physical hardware and the operating system and any application running on it. So any application that's actually running on a virtualized server, that virtualization part is totally transparent to it. It just runs as if it owns the hardware, and that's where the concept of managing those resources becomes very, very important. Now, after a virtual machine is virtualized, the operating system and applications are no longer constrained by the limits imposed by residing on a single physical machine. Now that it's sharing that physical hardware and can on demand access more resources than would have been available on a standalone machine. Virtual equivalents of physical elements such as switches, storage, operate within that virtual infrastructure with exactly the same concepts as you would find in a physical environment. So what are some of the benefits of virtualization that we can understand once an environment is virtualized? And the question is, why would I virtualize? What are the benefits? Am I gaining something? If I'm investing a lot of money, am I getting something back? What is my ROI? So one of the benefits is reducing capital and operating costs. So as we mentioned, we can replace 100 standalone servers with perhaps 10 very powerful servers, thereby saving cost in terms of capital, operating cost, which can include heating or cooling and management, hiring more people. So once those servers are reduced from 100 to 10, we're also saving on data center space. So there's a lot of saving that can happen, cost savings, and also capital costs are reduced and might be transformed into operating costs. We can deliver high application availability. As we'll see in the later chapters, virtualization also gives us more availability because there's more chances for or opportunities to run that application on other hosts, thereby increasing the availability. You can minimize or totally eliminate downtime. Again, using benefits of virtualization like vMotion or storage vMotion, which we're going to cover in a later video, it allows us to maybe minimize and totally eliminate downtime, and we have more control over scheduled windows of maintenance. You have the ability to increase IT productivity, efficiency, responsiveness, speed, and simplify application and resource provisioning. This is also one of the benefits of cloud that is a selling point, and that's all based on how we virtualized an environment. You can support business continuity and disaster recovery, enable centralized management. So using Virtual Center, we can manage hundreds of thousands of virtual machines from a single point. And you can also build a true software design data center. A virtual infrastructure presents IT organizations with increased flexibility in delivering services. It also serves as the foundation for cloud computing. Virtualization has the effect of decoupling applications and from the underlying complexity of the hardware. With the server consolidation, one physical server can take on the work of many servers by incorporating multiple servers as virtual machines, and also, as we mentioned, help reduce the capital cost as well as operating costs, because less number of servers, less data center space, less amount of people to manage those machines. Virtualization also enables us to create a dynamic and flexible data center and reduce operating expenses through automation, while also reducing planned and unplanned downtime. So many benefits of virtualizing an environment. So the main component or workhorse of vSphere is ESXi, and it provides a virtualization layer that abstracts the essential resources, which are processor, memory, storage, and networking of the physical host into multiple virtual machines. So each virtual machine is able to access storage, networking, and other resources, including memory and CPU, by having this virtualization layer in between. ESXi is a bare metal hypervisor. That means that it goes directly on the hardware, so it's more efficient and it's more powerful because any commands are directly translated to the underlying hardware. And being a bare metal hypervisor helps create the foundation or lay down the foundation for a dynamic and automated data center. Applications running in virtual machines are able to access CPU, memory, disk, and network interfaces without direct access to the underlying hardware. The ESXi hypervisor is also called the VM kernel. The VM kernel receives requests from virtual machines for resources from the virtual machine monitor and presents the requests to the physical hardware. So in the next chapter, next part of this video series, we'll talk about ESXi architecture and how the overall ecosystem works. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for part 2 and following additional videos. So we will build on the concepts that we learned in each chapter, then moving on to a more complex ideas. Thank you for watching.